What happens when one of the biggest pop stars in the world sits down for what should be a routine late-night interview, only to discover the host has a completely different agenda? What happens when that host decides to abandon all professionalism and turn a simple conversation into a personal attack? Tonight, we dive into one of the most explosive television moments you have never seen, where Jennifer Lopez found herself in the middle of a verbal battlefield she never signed up for. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below because this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about late-night television. The studio lights were blazing hot that Tuesday evening as Jennifer Lopez made her way onto the Jimmy Kimmel Live set. She had done this dance 1,000 times before, promoting her latest project, flashing that million-dollar smile, and charming audiences with her warmth and authenticity. Tonight was supposed to be no different. She was there to talk about her new film, her recent business ventures, and maybe share a funny story or two. What she did not expect was to walk into what would become one of the most uncomfortable and confrontational interviews in late-night history. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incredibly talented Jennifer Lopez, Jimmy announced to thunderous applause. Jennifer walked out in a stunning black dress, waving to the crowd with genuine enthusiasm. The audience was clearly thrilled to see her, and she fed off their energy as she took her seat across from Jimmy. "Jennifer, thank you so much for being here tonight," Jimmy said with what appeared to be his usual warm smile, though something in his eyes suggested otherwise. "Thank you for having me, Jimmy. I am always excited to be here," Jennifer replied, settling into her chair and crossing her legs elegantly. "Now, I have to ask you about your new movie. I watched it over the weekend, and I have to say, it was quite the experience," Jimmy began, but there was an odd emphasis on the word experience that made Jennifer tilt her head slightly. "Oh, wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it. We worked really hard on this project, and I think people are going to love the story we are telling," Jennifer responded enthusiastically. Jimmy leaned back in his chair, and his expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "Well, that is the thing, Jennifer. I am not sure love is the word I would use. I mean, let us be honest here. Do you really think your acting has improved at all over the years? Or are you just riding on your name recognition at this point?" The studio fell silent. Even the audience seemed stunned by the unexpected harshness of the question. Jennifer blinked, clearly taken aback by the aggressive tone. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice steady but with a hint of confusion. "I am just saying, we have watched you go from music to movies to business ventures, and it seems like you are spreading yourself pretty thin. I mean, when was the last time you actually delivered a performance that was not just Jennifer Lopez playing Jennifer Lopez?" Jimmy continued, his voice dripping with condescension. Jennifer straightened in her chair, her professional composure still intact but clearly shaken. "Jimmy, I am not sure where this is coming from, but I have been working in this industry for over 2 decades. I have put my heart and soul into every project I take on. But that is just it, is it not? Heart and soul does not necessarily translate to talent, does it? I mean, your latest album barely made a dent in the charts. Your last few movies were critical disasters, and now you are here promoting another project that, let us face it, probably would not exist if your name was not attached to it," Jimmy said, his smile never wavering but his words cutting deep. The audience was now visibly uncomfortable. Some people were shifting in their seats, others were looking around as if they could not believe what they were hearing. Jennifer took a deep breath, and you could see her processing what was happening. "Jimmy, I came here tonight to have a conversation about my work and to connect with your audience. I am not sure why you are choosing to attack me personally, but this is not what I signed up for," Jennifer said, her voice firm but still professional. "Attack you? I am just asking the questions that I think people at home are wondering about. Is that not what journalism is supposed to be about? Getting to the truth?" Jimmy replied, leaning forward as if he was conducting some kind of hard-hitting investigation. "This is not journalism, Jimmy. This is you being deliberately cruel for no apparent reason. I have always been respectful to you and to this show, and I expected the same courtesy in return, Jennifer shot back, her famous temper starting to show through the cracks of her professional facade. Jimmy chuckled. But it was not a warm sound. Respectful. Is that what you call it when you show up an hour late to interviews? When you demand specific lighting and camera angles? When you refuse to answer certain questions? Is that respect, Jennifer? I have never been an hour late to any interview in my career, and you know that. As for lighting and camera angles, every guest has preferences, and professional shows accommodate those requests. What you are doing right now is creating a hostile environment for absolutely no reason, Jennifer replied, her voice rising slightly but still maintaining control. Hostile environment? I am just asking you to be honest about who you really are, instead of hiding behind this perfect image you have crafted. Do you really think people believe that you are this down-to-earth, relatable person when you live in a mansion and have not done your own grocery shopping in 20 years? Jimmy pressed on, clearly enjoying the discomfort he was causing. Jennifer stared at him for a long moment, and you could see something shift in her expression. The professional mask was slipping away, and what was emerging was a woman who had reached her breaking point. You know what, Jimmy? You want honesty? Here is some honesty for you. I have worked harder than most people in this industry will ever work. I have faced criticism, discrimination, and people like you who think they can tear me down for entertainment. But I am still here, I am still successful, and I am still creating art that connects with millions of people around the world. So, if that threatens you somehow, that is your problem, not mine. The tension in the studio was now palpable. Even the cameramen seemed frozen, unsure of whether they should keep rolling or not. Jimmy's expression darkened at Jennifer's words. He was clearly not expecting her to push back so forcefully, and his carefully constructed facade of friendly banter was completely gone now. Threatens me? Jennifer, please. I have been doing this show for years, and I have interviewed actual legends. People with real talent, real substance. You are a pop star who got lucky and decided to try acting. There is a difference, Jimmy said, his voice now openly hostile. The audience was completely silent now, some people looking genuinely shocked, others pulling out their phones to record what was clearly becoming television history. Jennifer's eyes flashed with anger, and she leaned forward in her chair. A pop star who got lucky? Jimmy, I have sold over 70 million records worldwide. I have starred in films that have made hundreds of millions of dollars. I have built businesses that employ thousands of people. What exactly have you accomplished besides sitting behind this desk and making jokes written by other people? Jennifer fired back, her voice steady but filled with controlled fury. Jimmy laughed, but it was a harsh, bitter sound. Oh, here we go. The diva is coming out now. This is exactly what I am talking about, Jennifer. You cannot handle even the slightest bit of criticism without throwing a tantrum and listing your achievements like you are reading from a resume. Criticism? Is that what you call this? Jimmy, criticism would be saying you did not connect with a particular role, or that a song did not resonate with you. What you are doing is personal attacks disguised as interview questions. There is a huge difference, and you know it, Jennifer said, standing up from her chair now, clearly done with sitting and taking his abuse. Sit down, Jennifer. We are not finished here, Jimmy said, his voice taking on an authoritative tone that made several audience members gasp audibly. Jennifer stared at him in disbelief. Did you just tell me to sit down? Who do you think you are talking to, Jimmy? I am not your employee, I am not your subordinate, and I certainly do not have to take orders from you. You are a guest on my show, which means you follow my rules. Now sit down and let us continue this conversation like adults, Jimmy insisted, his face flushing red with anger. Like adults? Jimmy, adults do not ambush their guests with personal attacks. Adults do not try to humiliate people for entertainment. Adults treat each other with basic respect, Something you clearly know nothing about, Jennifer shot back, remaining standing and crossing her arms over her chest. Jimmy stood up as well now, clearly trying to intimidate her with his height advantage. You know what, Jennifer? I think the real problem here is that you have been surrounded by yes men for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to have someone actually challenge you. Maybe that is why your career has been stagnant for the past few years. Stagnant? Jimmy, I just completed a world tour that sold over 2 million tickets. My production company has 3 projects in development with major studios. My beauty line just launched in 50 countries. If that is stagnant, then I would love to know what success looks like in your world. Jennifer replied, her voice getting louder with each word. Numbers, numbers, numbers. That is all you ever talk about. Sales figures, box office receipts, chart positions. But what about artistic integrity? What about actually creating something meaningful, instead of just manufacturing products for mass consumption? Jimmy said, clearly trying to hit her where he thought it would hurt most. Jennifer took a step closer to him, her eyes blazing. Artistic integrity? Jimmy, you make jokes about celebrities falling downstairs and getting divorces. You play games, where people eat gross food for laughs. You literally make a living off of other people's misfortune and embarrassment. So please, tell me more about artistic integrity. The audience was now completely captivated by this verbal sparring match. Some people were cheering for Jennifer. Others looked horrified by the entire spectacle. But nobody was looking away. At least I am honest about what I do. I do not pretend to be some kind of artist when I am really just a brand. I do not fool myself into thinking that everything I touch turns to gold just because I have good marketing, Jimmy replied, his voice dripping with contempt. You want to talk about being honest, Jimmy? Let us be honest about what this really is. You brought me on this show tonight not to have a conversation, not to promote my work, but to try to tear me down in front of your audience because you thought it would be entertaining. You thought you could catch me off guard and make me look bad. And when I refused to play along with your little game, you got angry, Jennifer said, her voice now calm but deadly serious. That is not what this is about, Jimmy protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Then what is it about, Jimmy? Because from where I am standing, it looks like you decided to use your platform to attack me personally. And now you are upset. Because I am not just sitting here taking it. Is that what you expected? Did you think I would just smile and nod while you insulted my work, my character, and my intelligence? Jennifer demanded. Jimmy was clearly flustered now, his usual quick wit completely failing him. I was just trying to have a real conversation instead of the usual publicity nonsense. A real conversation involves 2 people talking to each other, with mutual respect. What you are doing is bullying, plain and simple. You are using your position of power to try to humiliate me, and you are doing it in front of an audience because you think that makes it entertaining, Jennifer said, pointing her finger at him accusingly. I am not bullying anyone. I am asking legitimate questions that people want answers to, Jimmy insisted. But his voice was getting defensive now. People want to know why you think it is acceptable to treat your guests this way. People want to know what happened to the Jimmy Kimmel, who used to actually care about making people feel welcome on his show. This person standing in front of me right now, I do not know who this is, but it is not the host that millions of people tune in to see every night, Jennifer said, her voice filled with genuine disappointment now rather than anger. For a moment, Jimmy looked almost ashamed, as if her words had actually gotten through to him. But then his face hardened again, and he doubled down on his aggressive approach. You know what, Jennifer? Maybe the problem is not me. Maybe the problem is that you cannot handle being in a room where everyone is not kissing your feet and telling you how amazing you are. Maybe you have gotten so used to people treating you like royalty that you forgot what it feels like to be treated like a regular person, Jimmy said, his voice now openly hostile and condescending. Jennifer stared at him for a long moment, and something shifted in her expression. The anger was still there, but now it was mixed with something else, something that looked almost like pity. "Jimmy, I feel sorry for you, I really do. Because somewhere along the way, you lost sight of what this job is supposed to be about. You are supposed to be entertaining people, making them laugh, giving them a break from their everyday problems. Instead, you have turned your show into a platform for your own personal issues and insecurities," Jennifer said, her voice now calm and measured. "My personal issues? Lady, you are the one who cannot handle a simple question without having a meltdown on national television," Jimmy shot back. But there was desperation in his voice now. "Simple question? Jimmy, you have spent the last 15 minutes attacking everything from my career to my personal life to my character. You have been condescending, disrespectful, and downright cruel. And now you are trying to gaslight me into thinking that I am the problem here." "That is not going to work," Jennifer replied, shaking her head in disbelief. The audience was hanging on every word now. This was unlike anything they had ever seen on late-night television. Several people were openly recording with their phones, clearly understanding that they were witnessing something unprecedented. "You want to know what I think this is really about, Jimmy? I think you are threatened by strong women who do not need your approval to be successful. I think you are uncomfortable with the fact that I have built an empire without asking permission from people like you. And I think you thought you could use your show to put me in my place," Jennifer continued, her voice gaining strength with each word. Jimmy's face was now completely red, and he was clearly struggling to maintain any semblance of control. "That is ridiculous. I have had plenty of successful women on this show, and I have never had any problems with any of them." "Really? Because from what I can see, you seem to have a particular problem with women who refuse to play the game by your rules. Women who refuse to be diminished or made to feel small for your entertainment," Jennifer replied, not backing down an inch. "I am not trying to diminish anyone. I am trying to have an honest conversation," Jimmy insisted, but his voice was getting weaker with each exchange. "Honest conversation? Jimmy, you started this interview by questioning my talent, my work ethic, and my authenticity. You have been nothing but disrespectful from the moment I sat down. If that is your idea of an honest conversation, then I feel sorry for every guest who has ever had to endure your version of hospitality," Jennifer said, her voice filled with disgust. Jimmy seemed to realize that he was losing control of the situation completely. In a last desperate attempt to regain the upper hand, he made a decision that would seal his fate. "You know what, Jennifer? If you cannot handle the heat, then maybe you should not have come into the kitchen. This is my show, these are my rules, and if you do not like it, then you know where the door is," Jimmy said, pointing toward the exit with a dramatic flourish. The audience gasped audibly. Several people actually stood up in their seats, clearly shocked by what they had just witnessed. Jennifer looked at Jimmy for a long moment, and then she smiled. But it was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been handed exactly what they needed. "You know what, Jimmy? You are absolutely right. This is your show, and these are your rules. And you have just shown everyone exactly what kind of person you really are. You have shown them that when you cannot control the narrative, when you cannot make your guest dance to your tune, you resort to kicking them off your own show," Jennifer said, her voice now filled with a quiet confidence that was somehow more powerful than all the shouting that had come before. "I am not kicking you off. I am giving you a choice," Jimmy said, but his voice lacked any conviction. "No, Jimmy. You are showing your true colors. You are showing everyone that you are exactly the kind of person who would rather destroy someone than admit that you were wrong. You are showing everyone that your ego is more important to you than treating people with basic human decency," Jennifer replied, picking up her purse from beside her chair. "So that is it? You are just going to walk away?" Jimmy asked, and for the first time all night he sounded uncertain. Jennifer turned to face him one last time, and her expression was a mixture of disappointment and resolve. "Jimmy, I came here tonight to promote my work and to have a good time with your audience. Instead, I found myself in the middle of your personal therapy session. I refuse to be a prop in whatever psychological drama you are working through. I have too much respect for myself and for these people who came here tonight to be entertained." She turned to address the audience directly, her voice warm and genuine in a way that stood in stark contrast to the hostility that had dominated the past 20 minutes. "I want to apologize to all of you for what you have had to witness tonight. You came here for entertainment, for laughter, for a good time. Instead, you got to see what happens when someone in a position of power decides to abuse that power for their own amusement. That is not fair to you, and it is not what you deserve." The audience began to applaud, slowly at first, but then building to a thunderous ovation. People were standing up, cheering, clearly showing where their sympathies lay. Jimmy stood there, looking completely deflated, as if he was finally beginning to understand the magnitude of what he had just done. Jennifer smiled at the audience, a genuine smile this time, and waved as she began to walk toward the exit. But before she reached the edge of the stage, she turned back one final time. "Jimmy, I hope you figure out whatever is driving this behavior, because the person I just spent the last 20 minutes talking to is not someone I recognize. The Jimmy Kimmel I thought I knew was funny, kind, and respectful. That person seems to have gotten lost somewhere along the way, and I hope you find him again, for your sake and for the sake of everyone who has to work with you." With that, Jennifer Lopez walked off the Jimmy Kimmel live stage, leaving behind a stunned audience, a humiliated host, and what would undoubtedly become one of the most talked-about moments in late-night television history. The cameras kept rolling as Jimmy stood there speechless, finally understanding that he had just made one of the biggest mistakes of his career. The silence in the studio was deafening, broken only by the continued applause from an audience who had just witnessed a masterclass in dignity under fire. Jennifer Lopez had walked into what was supposed to be a routine interview, and instead found herself in a battle for respect, and she had emerged victorious not through cruelty or revenge, but through strength, grace, and an unwavering commitment to her own self-worth. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Do you think Jennifer Lopez handled the situation correctly, or should she have stayed and continued to fight? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one, because the truth behind the scenes of Hollywood is always more dramatic than anything you see on screen.